Hi, everyone. This is Miranda with the Valuable Voices podcast. I met Terry Begue in an online Christian podcast group, and I cannot wait for you guys to hear his story and what he has going. He's just got a lot of exciting things coming up. So thank you, Terry, for being on today.
Absolutely. This is great. I love doing this, and I'm excited.
Yeah, so take us back, right? So I read a little bit on your website. Take us back to your painting business and kind of where you got from there to where you are today.
Okay. I started my painting business 43 years ago. So I was right out of high school, 18 years old, had no connections. I had no money. I had no tools, no equipment, but I knew one thing: I couldn't work for anybody. Every time I tried, it just didn't last. I never got fired. I just didn't stick around very long, and it took me a while to figure it out. I was an entrepreneur, and if there's anybody listening, you know what I'm talking about. It's hard to work for someone. You want to do everything on your own, and I paid a heavy price because I wasn't ready. I just went bam into the painting business because all you needed was a couple of paint brushes and a couple ladders, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
And I really suffered. My wife and I got married when I was young. I was 21 and she was just 19.
Wow.
And but we did it because we wanted to, not because we had to.
Yeah.
But I felt bad because I said, hitch your wagon to my star because I'm going to be a big deal, honey. And oh my gosh, 6 months later, I was rolling pennies. I was rolling change to buy my wife a Christmas present that first year. So that was a really, really tough time. And it took me a long time. I'm still not over that, I don't think, because I overcompensate. And I kept telling her when I become a better painter and when I start getting more work, things will get better. And I became pretty good at painting over the next 7-8 years, but still nothing changed. I felt like I was always just one lost job from bankruptcy. Really, it was that bad. I can remember even vacuuming some guy's carpet just to make an extra $20. So I was a sorry case, I'll tell you. But it all changed for me about, I want to say when I was about 27 years old, 28, my wife just said 3 little words to me and it changed everything. And they weren't "I love you." They were, "Terry, I'm pregnant."
Oh, wow.
That was it. And there's something about that. It just caused a switch to flip in my mind, I guess. And all of a sudden I realized that, I was sorry enough case pulling my wife down like this. I wasn't going to do it for my family.
Yeah.
And I decided to just get out of my comfort zone and make some serious changes, connect with customers in a different way, and join some groups. I did all the things I should have done earlier. And before my son was born, just 9 months later, I doubled my income.
Wow.
And over the course of that next year, doubled it again.
Wow.
And from that, I just kept going and going. And that was way back in like 88 when my son was born.
Okay.
And now my business is so successful that I haven't advertised since 2012. And I still get hundreds of calls every summer. Last year, we were booked 40 houses ahead all year of just the best, nicest jobs that you could get. And I started to think, geez, I figured things out on my own pretty much. I read a ton of books. A lot of them are behind me there.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm going to write a book about what I did to change everything. And I started to realize it wasn't what most people do. And that's, my book is titled How to Attract and Keep Customers for Life.
Okay.
Because some of my customers now are people I've been working for now for 35 and 40 years.
Wow.
And I'm really excited about the book. I've created a course based on the book, and it's all about, I want to help other people who were where I was back in the 1980s, and when I was such a sorry case. So
that is wonderful. Well, congrats. That's just exciting, right? Oh my goodness. I love that. What are some of your favorite books?
My favorite books, my book. Well, no, I'm just kidding. How to Win Friends and Influence People
That's the one I was thinking of. Yeah.
Dale Carnegie. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey.
Yeah.
Stephen Covey's son, Stephen, also wrote a book called The Speed of Trust. That is a fantastic book because the foundation of my book is trust, and that's the difference. When you can create trust with your customers, they'll pay your price. They'll wait for you as long as it takes, and they will become customers. And that's what the basis of my book is. It's outlined by what I call the 4 abilities, which are likability, believability, trustability, and wowability.
Awesome. I was going to ask you for some tidbits without giving too much away.
Oh, sure.
So what do you want to share about those 4? Those are good.
Likability, it's really about um, letting your customers talk. When you get out there, listen to what they have to say and understand their needs and find ways to create commonality. I look around when I'm at people's homes. If I see golf clubs in the corner or pictures of the kids on the wall, I'm not phony. I just help them to see that I'm like them.
Yeah.
Believability, there's two parts to that. It's making yourself more believable to your customers, because it's hard to go from like to trust. So that believe is that little bridge that connects the two. But
Mm.
also part of that chapter is about, or that part of the book is about believing in yourself, because until I really believed that I was the real deal, it wasn't going to happen.
Mm.
Trustability I talk about as really what everything points to in the book. It's once you're trusted, you create loyal customers who will use you over and over. They won't question your price. They won't shop your price. And the last one is wowability, and that's pretty much after you've done the job, all the little things that you do that create attraction, and people will give you the best kind of business in any business, which is repeat and referral business. And that's
Yeah.
what mine is now. That's why I haven't advertised since 2012. And I
Wow.
still get anywhere from 20 to 30 phone calls a week with no advertising.
Wow.
And I want other people to experience what I did, because there's nothing in the book that's going to blow you away. There's some things you heard, but the power of it is consistently doing a lot of little things right. And that's what the book's all about. Each one of those abilities, I have 8 or 10 little things that you can do to create likability and trustability and so forth.
Okay, that sounds great. How would
Mhm.
you say, because I think this is for a lot of people that have their own business, how would you say you got to believe in yourself, right? So there's probably many steps, but what would you say kind of shifted that for you?
What did what for me? I'm sorry.
Believe in yourself. Because I think
To
that's
believe
such
in
a
myself.
big, yeah, that's such a big, if somebody's starting a business or wanting to get to that next level, you do have to believe in yourself. And what kind of
Yeah.
took you from not believing into believing yourself?
What kept me from is the way I started the business. I probably should have worked for a painter like any normal person should do. So I never really felt I was worthy. I grew up out. We weren't poor, but we didn't have a lot, and I didn't feel right about asking for more money than I need to pay my bills. But that always kept me strapped. So it was changing that belief, and what helped me a lot more than I ever would have expected is I joined an organization. I bet you've heard of them, called Toastmasters.
Yeah.
And I love being a Toastmaster. And when I joined, my wife said, "Oh, I don't. You sure that's what you want to do? Because you're going to be in there with other professionals." She didn't want to see me crash and burn.
Right.
I'll tell you, 3 years later, they do a speech contest, and I made the top 100 in the world 3 different times, and got to speak in Malaysia, got to speak in Canada, in Vancouver,
Wow.
and so it was really neat. But it was just sharing little stories, which is part of what I talk about in the book. You want to connect with your customers on an emotional level, and to do that, as you probably know, you need an emotional story
Yeah.
to
That's,
back it up. It creates a connection.
yeah.
you know
What would you say this book is for? Is it somebody that already has a business, that's starting a business? Who's your ideal reader?
who my target customer was somebody who's had their business maybe 1 to 3 years, who's already started a small business. It's really directed at the service industry,
Mhm.
but that takes in a lot. But it also fits for any industry where you're selling, which is really any industry, because you're either selling, if you're not selling a product or a service, you're selling your ideas.
Yeah.
You're selling to your kids or your parents. That just selling happens all the time. So my ideal customer is someone who's just started, who's struggling, trying to get a foothold in their business. They can't charge over a certain amount because the customers will shop their price, and they'll find someone else who will undercut their price.
Mhm.
And that was a big deal for me to get past that. But it's all about creating value in your customer's mind. It
Right.
doesn't matter how valuable you think you are, but there's ways of setting it up so customers see the value that you provide that's different from the competition. And
Yeah.
that's a big part of the book. So people who are struggling to get going in their business, to get a foothold, also just entrepreneurs that are trying to start a business and are not sure what to do.
Yeah.
And I love service businesses, because you're not selling a product, you're selling something invisible, your service.
Yeah.
But that it's easy to do if you go about it the right way, and my book goes into all of that.
That's great. So tell us about your course. I assume your course is probably based on your book.
It is.
Right?
And
That's
yeah,
probably the same people, correct?
yes. Yeah, and it's pretty much directed to them, really anybody in the service industry, but again, it goes outside of that. And the book is called Attract and Keep Customers for Life. The course I called Unnoticed to Unforgettable, because
Oh,
that's what it's all about, is nobody knew I even existed in the beginning, and or wanted to know.
yeah.
And by the end now, people will wait for me. I just got off the phone with a lady today, and I said to her, I said, uh, um, oh gosh, now I'm going to forget her name because I'm not thinking, but she just called me Mrs. Dugan, and she calls me all the time. And when I saw it on my phone, I couldn't answer at the time at work. And one of my guys said, Mrs. Dugan, there can't be anything left that she needs painted, because we've done the outside of her house, the inside of her house, her fence, her pergola, her arbor,
Yeah.
everything on her house. And I called her back, and she said, we want you to paint our house again. I said, her house is on the home page of my website. It looks so nice. She goes, we want to change the color. And my husband said that if you can't get to it this year, we'll wait for you till next year, because no one else is going to do it. So it's creating that kind of a connection with your customers.
Yeah.
And I told her, she's given me so much business, I would never make her wait like that. I'd move her to the front if I had.
Oh, wow. That's
And
amazing.
but it's kind of turned into a thing where you go from treating your customers like your customers to treating them like your friends.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's being phony. I really do love my customers, and they would never call anyone else. They'll wait for me.
Yeah.
Another guy told me, if when I called, if you were out of business, I wasn't going to have the painting done. I was just going to get new siding. And it's stuff like that that's what gives me confidence.
Right.
When you say, what is it that made, now I have confidence out the wazoo, I guess you'd say, because my customers are validating what I'm doing, I guess you could say.
Absolutely. Well, I want to go back to when you were 18, you knew you didn't want to work for somebody else, right? It took me way too long, let's just say. I'm 42 and I'm finally realizing I don't want to work for somebody else. So what would you say to somebody coming out of college or high school and they want to make that leap and they're not quite sure? What kept you going for those 7 years when you maybe weren't making ends meet?
What kept me going during that time?
Yeah.
I was running ads in the newspaper. For the young people out there, there was a newspaper at one time that came out to
Right.
everybody's house. But I would take it was my wife's income I was using to buy ads in the newspaper. We were that poor.
Wow.
And I remember one week getting her paycheck, which she got every 2 weeks, and I had to use half of her check to get my phone turned back on, because I just spent like $12 on, which was a lot to me, on an ad in a newspaper, and people couldn't call me if my phone wasn't turned on. So those were the kind of things I was doing. That's how sorry it was, and every job I looked at, I was looking at jobs that should have been $1,000, $2,000, and I was charging $285 because that was our rent. And I couldn't take a chance of losing the job. So that's what kept me going. I was almost begging, and I was always the low bidder. And when you live in that low bidder world, it's hard to break out of it. You're competing with other low ballers,
Right.
and it's a race to the bottom.
Well, I saw something on your website to that effect, that you help people earn the income they're worth, right? So at that point, maybe you didn't see yourself, or you didn't value yourself more than the rent. So what would you say to somebody that's like, I need to make more, but how can I charge more, right? Is it the level of service?
It's communicating more value with your customers. And some people say, what's that look like? One of the things I did by accident, I wanted to get in a home and garden show one year. And this is right after my wife told me she was pregnant, and I knew that would help, because painters don't get in home and garden shows, and I was the only one in it. But to be in it, I had to join an organization called NARI, National Association of the Remodeling Industry.
Okay.
So I joined it just so I could get in the mall show. But once I joined that, instantly, even though I was just still a rookie, it took me to the same level as all the other people in that group. So I would say join professional organizations if you can afford to. Some are free. Toastmasters is not that much, and I got a lot of work out of Toastmasters. So joining professional organizations, go to networking events, go online, find what's in your industry out there. In my book, I talk about how to prepare for a networking event and not be one of those people that everybody hates to talk to, that's just there to sell. you
Right.
know. So that join a professional organization, go to networking events, look for ways to communicate more value. What can you do? If you want people to believe in you, you got to show up on time if you have a meeting, and you
Yeah.
have to be ready to go. And even though you and I I thought we were just going to have a conversation today, and you said you're ready to go, I thought great, because I learned you got to be ready to go.
Yeah.
Take
Yeah.
when you got a chance to do something, you got to go for it. You can't be afraid of failure. That was another thing. Anybody's ever had anything in their life that amounted to anything had to fail a lot of times
Yeah.
first. Overnight successes, that they really aren't for real. People just didn't see all the years they put into that before they became an overnight success.
Yeah.
And
Totally. So I can tell you're a people person, right? And that's a big part of who you are. Have you always been that way? And it just took a little time to figure it out, right? Like building that trust and communicating with people and
yeah,
having people like you and just emotionally
yeah.
attaching. Have you always been that way?
No, I didn't want to be that way. I remember when I asked the girl I married, my wife, to the prom in my senior year. She told me everybody came up to that year and says, "You're going to the prom with Terry Begue. See, he doesn't talk. You know that."
Wow.
She was the first date I'd ever been on, and everybody told her that, and that was true. I didn't talk to people,
Okay.
but I started talking to people when it came down to either I talked to them, or we're not going to pay the rent this month.
Yeah.
And then when I went to Toastmasters, that took it to a whole nother level for me. I was already a little bit comfortable, but they helped me to understand that I had value, and then being a member of Toastmasters helped me to communicate that value to my customers. That's a big part of my book, is communicating value.
Yes, that's so good. I love that.
Hmm.
So that just gives hope to people that maybe think they're an introvert or they're not outgoing. You can become that way, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if you see the value in it and you have a service and a passion for it.
Yeah. It can be hard and it can be scary, but if it's what you got it, and it probably is, if you want to be a success in business, you got to step out of your comfort zone.
That's the thing. You have to. That's where you grow,
Yeah,
right? You can't stay in
exactly.
one place.
And it's not that awful. Once you've done it, you'll feel good about it. I remember after I gave my first speech, I thought I was going to have a heart attack, but going home, I felt so good about it. And I got talking to all the other Toastmasters, and they said, yeah, that's what it's like.
Yeah.
And they're right. And it's the same thing when I meet with a customer, and I know I'm getting the job. I never waste time giving bids, because people don't call and say, well, I'm getting estimates and I wanted you to come out too. They say, just come out and tell me, when you can do it.
Yeah.
And when people tell you that before you even give them a price, that's powerful.
That's so good.
And that's what I cover in the book, is how to create that for yourself, especially in the service industry. But like I said, it works no matter what you're selling.
Yeah, sure.
It's the same likability and believability.
Yeah, awesome. Well, as we wrap up, let us know where we can find you. TerryBeg.com, right? So it's Terry
Right.
Beg.
That's my website for speaker author. My painting website is begpainting.com, but you don't have to look at that.
Where are you located?
It's my last name, Begue,
Right.
begpainting.com.
So where are you located?
Oh, I'm sorry. Northeast Ohio.
Oh,
I'm,
okay. Okay.
I'm right in between Akron and Canton, Ohio.
Okay. So for those
And
in Ohio.
yep. Yeah, so I'm in the Eastern time zone. And if anybody wants to reach out, I think you can connect with me at terrybeg.com. Also, and I'll put this to all of, this podcast, of course, to all of my social media
Yeah.
places
And your
as well.
book is probably everywhere, right? Amazon, all the all the fun.
Really, it's just on Amazon right now, in some places here that are local. But you could either search out "Attract and Keep Customers for Life" or just my name. You can get the Kindle version. I think is $2.99.
Oh, nice.
That's all. And in it, I have like things that I give away for free that are worth literally hundreds of dollars.
Oh, absolutely.
And you'll see there's some great stuff that I give away for free in the book. And yeah, just check it out if you'd like, and hopefully people connect with me at terrybeg.com. That's the best way.
And they can, if they want to look into your course or your program, they can find you there.
Also at terrybeg.com. It talks about my book right now, but that's all going to get changed over about the time this podcast airs. It's all going to get changed over. It's going to talk about my course, which is called Unnoticed to Unforgettable.
I love that.
Okay.
That's so good. Well, congratulations. It's just an honor to just hear your story. I love what you're doing. I love how you kind of take what you've learned and grown from and share that with the world, right?
Yeah.
It's going to impact and help so many people. So
Yeah, thank
very
you so much. And I wouldn't have a way to do it if it weren't for people like you. So thank you so much for giving me your time and allowing me to be on this podcast with you.
Yeah, of course. Well, bless you. And you guys check him out at www.terrybegue.com. Check it out. I can't wait to read the book. I know I could definitely get some insight. So
Awesome.
bless you, and
Yep.
we'll talk soon. Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much. Take care. All right. Bye now.